Pleasure to talk to you.
You too. The celebration 20 years of one of the greatest albums of the 90s with version 2.0. This as we look back on it, and I got to read the book too, which was so much fun to kind of experience it through your all's, stories in that way. But when you look back on it, like this, at least perception on my part, seems like this is life at the top of the world at this point. Did it feel like that for you, though?
Well, I think it did, as much as we had time to notice what was going on around us. We toured for 22 months or something, 20 months around version 2.0. So we were so busy with that and exhausted, and we were having a great time. Of course, we were seeing the world basically, but for us to really be aware of what the album was doing and how well it was selling and how it was getting played on the radio and all of that stuff was just these, occasional reports from the home base, so to speak. So we had some heady moments, of course, playing certain venues and meeting a lot of people and being nominated for awards and all that stuff. But for the most part, we were just out on tour, sort of oblivious in a way of how big this record had become.
But as your all statement, I mean, this was the point where you said, now we're a real band. Like this is the real thing this time, because as the story goes with Garbage, with that first album setup, it was sort of like testing the waters, and it feels like everything sort of happened accidentally.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think we had, Cheryl was new to the fold, of course, on that first record, and she was still new coming into the second record, really. But having had some success and been on tour with that first record and then coming in the second record, we had become more of a band and had sort of figured out a musical direction, I guess. And Shirley had become much more involved with the songwriting, the lyrics, and the production than she was on the first record. Not to say she wasn't involved on the first record, she was very much so, but not to the extent that she took over the reins for nearly all of the lyric writing on the second record and a lot of the song ideas and production ideas. And it was just, we became much more of a foursome rather than a threesome plus one.
Speaking of that right there, during that time, was that difficult at all for you to kind of let go of? Because suddenly the attention was on Shirley too, as the front person, that's where the attention went. So not only are you sort of giving up part of the songwriting, and I don't know, how important lyrics were to you at that time, but then, as the camera goes, you've definitely become one of the guys in the back, as sort of the joke went throughout that book.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think any of us were unhappy with the attention Shirley was getting. She deserved it, for one thing, and still does. It didn't take away from how we worked in the studio. That was the main thing. Mm-hmm. It didn't take away from how we shared the work on the music itself. Had it affected that, I think we would have all had a problem, But it never got in the way of that. That's all just how, public perception and all that, the PR side of things. Mm-hmm. But we still worked very much as a band together in the studio, writing the songs and sharing all of the, everything that comes with being in the band. As much as we could deal with the business side of stuff and all that, we all shared equally in that. So I don't think any of the three of the boys in the band were bothered by that at all.
Well, the way it comes out of the music is, of course, so impressive, too, because you have this great meeting of electronic meets rock. You were pushing against what was possible with Pro Tools, which is really amazing given how new all of that was. But I guess what the impressive part is, and I know a lot of that came from you, is you wanted to make sure this record still had soul. What was the challenge there?
Well, anytime you start incorporating a computer into anything, soul can quickly become secondary. It can get too easy sometimes. Pro Tools is a mixed blessing. It's a blessing and a curse. It opens you up to a whole new universe of possibilities, and that's exciting and wonderful. But it's also a dangerous. You can lose your, as you put it, your soul in it. You can lose the human feel, and you can just second guess yourself way too much. And we did a lot of that on that record. I mean, you could try 40 different things just on the guitar part, and we did a lot of that. I think we wasted a lot of time just, exploring the possibilities, these new possibilities that Pro Tools offered up. I think and I think we still wrestle with that sometimes, but I think we got it. We've kind of tamed the beast a little bit at this point.
Yeah. Were you doing much sampling on that second record? Because I know there was some pretty famous ones on the first record.
We were still doing that. Yeah. There's a lot of that going on. But we were also using Pro Tools in place of that sometimes. So it was a back and forth. Yeah, we were finding loops and using a lot of found stuff that we would pick off of an old record or something.
I think that's what got me is I couldn't tell as much on the second one. Like, it really did blend well. And you talk about those beats. I mean, some of those beats are maddening. It's like I couldn't even to figure out how to find the space as you're just layering on all of these things. That seems crazy to me.
It's a very layered record, that's for sure. There's a lot going on version 2.0. We discover that every time we go on tour and we listen to we always listen to the recorded versions before we start a new tour to remind us of what people hear from those songs, so that we can maybe either give them what they expect or surprise them. So we always go back, and there's a lot going on that record. God, Push It had a lot going on in that song, but that was that was a part of the exploration. That was part of the this whole new world of possibilities.
Now, with playing the album live, that you're going to do, and a handful of shows over in the UK, and hopefully with a few shows over in the US, are there songs that you hadn't played in a long time that you've had to relearn? Yeah,
I think there's a lot of songs on there we haven't played in a while. I think we've played all of them at one point or another live, but Wicked Ways, I don't think we've played in a long time. I don't think we played Medication and so forth. But we've given different treatment to those songs live, so we'll see what we come up with for this tour. I think we're going to have fun with it, and we're looking forward to it, actually. You would think after all this time that we always get asking, as every band does of our ilk, of our age, you must get tired of playing these songs, but we don't really. We don't. And diving into these tracks that we haven't played in a long time will be enjoyable for us. And then along with that are all the B-sides that accompanied that record. And there's some really good tracks there, too. Some songs that maybe would have deserved to be on the record had we had them ready in time. There's a few B-sides on Soldier Through This, which is a great song that and part of the what makes those songs the B-sides, they were fun because we had to do them really quickly. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't do a lot of second guessing and a lot of messing around. Soldier Through This was the song that we recorded when we were kind of on tour, I think. And we happened to be in LA, and we got stuck in this little studio at A&M. I mean, it's a tiny place. And we recorded two tracks there, and they're both pretty good. We did them in basically a day or two.
It just shows up, to have such strong songs that did make it. The album itself, it had 6 singles to it, which these days is completely unheard of. 6 singles for one album.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs when albums are kind of being overlooked as a format, as a presenting your work as a body of work rather than a single with a few tracks on it. It's kind of like the way it was back in the 50s, I guess, wasn't it? In the 60s, where you'd have a hit and then they'd put out a record with 11 tracks that were not very good. But once the album became expected of a band like us to put out an album of work. It's like an artist doesn't put one painting on display. You put out a gallery full of paintings so that people can see a direction rather than just one example of it. It's not necessarily even economically good idea to make albums these days. It costs money to do the work in the studio and blah blah blah, but we'll always do it because that's who we are. That's what we love to do.
Well, thank God. As a fan, I will say that. Yeah, I'll expand on that question. That the bigger question that probably gets thrown at you quite a bit too is, do you see over this 20 years since 2.0 or 30 years, 40 years, however you want to look at that the industry where it is now has changed for the better or worse?
Well, I would say that it's changed for the worse. As far as the industry goes, I think there's some really exciting music out there, but I think the fact that an artist's work can just be heard for free without any compensation is robbery, really. I think it's gone to the point where record labels, what have you, don't invest in their artist's career as much. If an artist doesn't succeed on the first single, it's pretty much over. That kind of development that used to happen is no longer respected. And I don't know. I guess I could go on and on. I mean, it used to be an artist could make a great record and get reimbursed at least for the work. It's intellectual property, whatever. It's your art, and it's just kind of taken from you rather than paid for. And I think artists are constantly trying to figure out how to, make the purchase of the vinyl or the CD a more attractive commodity. But, if you don't have to pay for it, you just want to hear the music, it's easy enough to do. Maybe someday it'll be turned around when it's realized, what actually is happening. It's not right. It's just not right. I'm coming up sounding like I'm really bitter or something, that I feel bad for new bands who put out music and can't, all you can do is play live to make a living, and that's exhausting. It's great, it's fun, but it's exhausting. It's difficult. How many bands do people go see in a month?
Right.
Not that many.
Well, I'm still happy that you're all doing it regardless of the challenges, because
so are we.
Your music has meant so much to me. It's meant so much to a lot of people, and and not only to celebrate these classic albums that you've been doing lately, but also the new music. I mean, Strange Little Birds is one of my favorite records in your entire catalog. To be pumping out.
That's really great to hear. I appreciate you saying that. It's one of my favorite ones too. I think and we're going to start work on a new one in April. So
yeah, I heard about this because speaking with Shirley too, she says you guys are going to go all the way back to living together and trying to do that again.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't really thought of it that way, but I guess that's what we're doing. Yeah. That makes me laugh.
I feel like maybe there should be cameras involved,
God forbid.
This is real world Palm Springs garbage edition.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do our own reality show. Why not?
I told the same thing to her too, that recording out in the desert, I feel like the desert is one of those environments that can really alter a sound. It's an environment that really pushes people into something. I'm really curious to see if that happens with you guys.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. I want to spend as much time out in the desert as I possibly can. Just rent a car and just go out and sit there and marvel at that landscape. And I think it's usually a subconscious kind of thing. But I think your environment, what you see during any particular day, affects what comes out of you musically as a musician, the next day. I think it all works somehow, and it'll be interesting to experienced that.
Congratulations, by the way, on all the accolades you got for American Epic too, and everything that you were part of with that.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was a labor of love and a long one, and I'm really delighted with how it turned out. And yes, we're getting. It's kind of been a slow. It didn't really get the proper release boot that it needed or deserved, but it's having kind of a slow rise. People are becoming aware of it more and more, I think. So it's very gratifying. Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I hope to see one of the shows. I'm really looking forward to it. Making the trip if I need to, which I probably will. But I'll do it. And you know, maybe we
I
can
appreciate
do this.
that.
Yeah, we'll do this again when the next record comes out.
You bet. It's a pleasure talking to you.
You too. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.